Welcome to this week's episode of the Indy and Doctor podcast. I'm back from my honeymoon. Garen's been missing me, but we also discussed a bunch of stuff like how I nearly died going up a volcano, how Sanj, my wife, had really bad food poisoning and had to get around it. Also dealt with Garen doing fencing and why Uber is banned in Bali. So, all pretty important, good shit to know. Definitely follow through, check it out, and we'll catch you on the other side. Laters.
What's happening, people? Welcome to the Indy and Doctor podcast. So, Indy, what's happening, my brother? It's been a while.
Hey, there we go.
There we go.
The scene.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
doing things the same.
You.
I went on honeymoon, innit? So,
Oi.
I'm good.
I still can't believe it's been a year. I had the photo memory thing come up from Indy and Sanjay's wonderful wedding day and the subsequent days. And I think we actually did a live, didn't we? We did an Instagram live when we went to Sanjay's house
It's still on my phone.
to kidnap her. So, guys, it's called the dolly, but essentially it's kidnapping the girl. Now, the interesting thing here is it's more like, this is the joke that was ongoing, it's Indy's dolly, really, because he's left where he lives to go and live where Sanj lives. So Indy was more sad, really, even though we're kidnapping Sanj. But it's been a year, man. It's been a year since you guys got married, and lovely to see that you guys jetted off. Where did you go?
Went to Bali, bro. It was eventful, to say the least.
Oh, yeah. Come on, then.
Yeah, what happened? So a bunch of things happened, but we'll save segments of it for later.
Right.
The one thing I want to notice is Sanj kept saying to me, Indy. I said, yeah, this feels like India. And I said,
Wow.
You need to nip that shit in the bud right now.
Not what we are going for.
That's not what I was
really.
going
No. Oh, how early on into the honeymoon did she have that revelation?
Because she said, if you just take random pictures of certain spots, it looks like you're in India. And I said, yes, it looks like that anywhere in Southeast Asia. It depends on what's in the area.
And just to give some context, obviously you've done a bit of traveling prior to this honeymoon in that part of the world. Has Sanj ever been there?
No, this is the furthest she's ever gone. So at the wall at the house, or at the flat, sorry, on our wall here, so the wall I'm tapping here, there's a world map stuck onto the wall. Yeah. This is the furthest point she's been on the map. Ever. So we put the little thing added on, and it's like looking really far away. She said, Indy, I've never been this far away from home.
Yeah, it reminds me of, this is because I'm a really sad Lord of the Rings fan. Sam says that in the opening Fellowship when they're going to destroy the ring.
Yeah, he stops even like, I remember that.
This is the furthest we've been from the Shire. It's just sad. Okay, so Sanj had this revelation that she's basically in India, and so she needed more wowing. She's expecting clearly a lot more. But you're not talking here about the hotels. You're talking about when you're going into like the rice fields and all that kind of other stuff. Is that what you mean? Or
yeah, if you're just walking around and just exploring the area, you get the feeling like this isn't Bali. But then when you're going through the roads,
that's the question, isn't it? What is Bali?
Yeah, it's just built up by a bunch of tourists, and it's obviously really scenic and beautiful, but you have to get to the scenic and beautiful area. The route to it looks sketchy. It always
the transit. Right. Now, okay, so let me add to this what Sanj is saying then. So I spent a lot of time in India, right? I've been there about 30 times. I know exactly what India looks like. And when I went to Canada, I had the same feeling, right? And so my feeling was this. What you're talking about is that transition period, the transit period.
Yes.
Right. And you have that in India. And actually what I realized is just everywhere that's not England has this concept, which is
Thank you.
Right. So you've got this building and then you have nothing for ages, like just open gaps and stuff, right? You've got like a random building. And I was like, oh, this feels like India. I said that to Shindy when we were in Canada. And then I realized it's just in the UK, we are so used to no gaps. And that's what it is. We're just so small that everything's compacted. But for us, that's normal. And I was just like, oh, yeah, India's just like underdeveloped, like, whatever country. It's big gaps, but Canada has exactly the same things. It sounds like what
in England as well, even how the pavements look is really different. So the pavements here are quite low. They're sort of really concrete. Over there, it's made up of, it looks like concrete, but it's not. It's like these little like tile effects on the floor. And it's like tiling, but made out of really hard rock. So it doesn't look, the concrete pavements don't look the same as they do here, but they look exactly the same like how they do in India. So I've been to Mumbai, the concrete layout is exactly the same and the pavements are the same. So I get where she got that from. It was only when I took her to like the wow part, she's like, okay, this is in India.
Now
but she took random pictures saying, look, it's a field. And she put on her story like, look, there's a random dog there. I bet it's called Ruby or Tony. And I was like, you're killing me here, right? Honestly,
Sabotage.
taking you here and you're giving me India comparisons. Didn't expect this. But the driving in Bali is absolutely dangerous and reckless. Okay, wherever your driver does in the car, don't look ahead. Don't look at what he's doing. Don't second guess. Just go with it. I had no car crashes, nothing. But there's no structure. It is like driving in India.
Well, I was going to say, so how does it compare? Same as India? Worse than India?
No, it's not as bad as India. It's a bit more structured. The roads are more narrow. There's less space. But there's a lot of scooters going by, a lot of motorbikes going by. It's not the same. But they drive really close to each other. Like, there's no braking distance. And the braking distance thing really throws me off. I'm like, whoa, I can't do this. Because if I look at my driver, I'm like, brake, brake, brake. And he doesn't brake. And I'm like, how are you so close to him? What if he doesn't brake? Then what? Then you got a pilot. No. Fine. Everything fine.
It's a question then. So, if you had your father-in-law in that car, the driver, how would he be in that situation?
I think because it's in a different country and he doesn't understand it, he can't judge, so he has to just go with it. In this instance, I may have felt like my father-in-law. This is kind of a confession here, but I think I probably acted like I'm my father-in-law was. I was looking like this is not normal. I wasn't guessing it, but I was like, my God, okay, I'm not going to say anything, but inside my heart is going doop, 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 doop. And Sandra's there asleep.
I'm going to die today.
Near enough. I'm going to die today. And then we have this car crash. And then Sandra's family is going to blame me for it because I took her to Bali. And I was like, this isn't fun. Right? Whole life flashed before my eyes. Okay. Everything.
Okay. So driving's unsafe. It felt a little bit like India until you got to the bits which weren't India. What did I catch of your story? You sent quite. I actually felt like we spoke a lot when you were on honeymoon.
We did, yeah.
Which I don't know how you guys felt about that, but
I was fine with that. I got no problem because Sandra's doing a chilling time on the beach. I'm thinking like, what can I do for the podcast? What can I do for this? What can I do for that? Yeah. Let me get on my editor. Let me make sure this is done. Like I was still doing it. Yeah,
it's good. No, it's great, man. It felt like we were still connected. There was a video of you dancing. There's quite a few videos of you dancing, doing a little jiggle. But one was like, I think it was in a rice field. It looked like
it was in the rice field. Yeah.
That looked really. That actually reminded me. There's a film. I don't know if you've seen it, called Fearless by Jet Li.
Oh, I think I might have seen it. I was a big Jet Li fan as a kid, so I might have done.
Great film, like just about how you should live your life, and he goes through personal transformation. There's a bit in there basically where he's lost everything, and he wakes up, and he's in this village, and there's a rice field just like that, and basically he spends his days planting these, whatever he's planting. Yeah, but he's really content. And when I saw that, it just took me back to that scene, man. But it looked awesome, man.
It was really amazing, man. But that rice field day, we got lucky because it wasn't too hot. So if we did some of the things that we planned to do on days where it was super hot, it would have been unbearable. We went when it was overcast, so there was a little bit of sun, a little bit of cloud, so it gave you a bit of a breeze and respite from the heat.
Perfect.
So it worked out well for us. We just got lucky with a lot of the days just working out with weather-wise and staying indoors and staying on the beach. Whenever we wanted to stay at the hotel and chill, it was a sunny day. When we wanted to go out and about, it was a cloudy day. So it was all level, like really nice.
Okay, cool. And so food-wise, how did you find it?
Food's good out there, really good. Think you get like an international breakfast at the hotel anyway, because that's the thing.
Included.
That's the things that they give naturally. Sanj caught food poisoning, but we'll save that for later. And for me, food-wise, I was okay, but I was kind of missing my routine foods that I eat at home all the time because my stomach was a bit like, it's getting a bit jittery because you're just eating anything and everything. And there's no like structure to your meals. So sometimes we just ate at like 5 o'clock,
right?
Which is a dumb time to eat because you're like, okay, I've missed my lunch slot, but I'm going to miss my dinner slot. Then if we lie down and watch a film at 9 o'clock, we're not going to get up and go and eat dinner. So
room service. Hello.
Room service, or just accept it. And I was like, accept it. Let's just stay here. And then we had to work around that and make sure we ate at decent times.
Okay. So if you're a vegetarian, all good options?
Yes, options. There's a big vegan movement out there. Depends on the city you're in though. So we stayed in Seminyak. There's a place called Ubud, which is really big for the backpackers. And around there, they have a bunch of vegan cafes, vegan restaurants, etc. Everything's super friendly, like gluten-free. So because they've got a big international audience from the States and from Australia that go there, they have to cater to these audiences of people.
Nice.
So they obviously know their market and know the people that they need to attract to stay there. But food is super cheap, like very, very cheap.
All right, here's a question. Because, yeah, again, my perception of that part of the world is good place to go, good value for money from where we come from. So what isn't cheap when you go there?
I don't know. I didn't see anything too expensive. I gauge things on being expensive for being there. So say, for example, there was a cab ride we had to take from Ubud back to Seminyak in the evening. That was about 20 quid. And me and Sanch were like, this is expensive. I was like, well, hang on. 20 quid? That's nothing for an hour and a half in the car.
Oh, mate, that's bad.
No, but in our minds, we know how cheap it is in the area. So we're like, well, hang on. We're getting bumped here. So
okay.
For us, understanding how the price movement is there.
Yeah.
The local price, it's expensive.
Right, but still for us, that's cheap for an hour and a half.
For us, it's still cheap. You see what I mean?
I see.
So I'm trying to find that like middle-ish area.
Yeah. Okay, so food is doable. Hotel, like staying wise.
Hotel was good. Hotel was really good. They were really accommodating. They kept calling me Mr. Indy. And then anytime I got given the bill, they gave it to me, not Sanj. And I was like, nice. And I was like, Sanj, here you go. It's your turn. Right?
Traditional, isn't it? Like hierarchical.
Traditional. They wouldn't ask her any questions. They'd ask me how I am. They wouldn't ask her anything. And she's listen, I do things too. Right?
What does it matter? They're like, if you're okay, she is okay by default.
They're like, is Mr. Indy okay? Everything okay, Mr. Indy? Right? Literally all the time. Hello, man. Mr. Indy.
Okay.
I was like, hi.
I'm thinking like t-shirt, man. Like that checking question. Mr. Indy, you okay? I can just see that on a t-shirt, man. That's it. Your new nickname is Mr. Indy.
Mate, every car ride, it would be the same, like, where are you from? How long are you here for? Where are you staying?
Who
How
is
are things
she?
going? Are you
What's her
enjoying
function?
this? No one spoke to her. They all asked me questions. I was like, she can answer too, right?
Mr. Indy, is this your worker? Does she work for you? Is she clean for you? Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Mr. Indy. All right, cool. So you're a happy man. Do you feel rested?
Bali was good, man. It's good. I'm glad to be home, but I want to know what you've been up to.
Okay. So, actually, I forgot what I'm going to talk about today. I'm just seeing if there's anything else I've done in the time you've not been here. When did you leave?
15th or 16th. I can't remember. I think it was the 15th.
Yeah. It's fine. So what have I been doing? Okay, quite a few things. Obviously not as cool as going to Bali. But did fencing for the first time. That was on Monday.
You posh white man.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, was there any non-white people there? Yeah, there was one black guy.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, no, and there were 2 Indian kids with their father. He's one of those who's like, I'm going to get you started early. This is like
one of those
prodigy projects, that type of feel. It was very interesting. So I think since probably the age of 25, there's probably a list of things I wanted to try. I'm kind of the mindset. I like doing things, getting them to a good level, knowing obviously I'm not going to compete on like a world level in any of these things, and then being happy enough to move on to something else. So I'd say my racket sports are kind of like, table tennis, badminton, and tennis are at a good level, where it's like I'll enjoy it, I can pick it up, I can play it any time. But I had a list of other things, and fencing was always one of those things. I think originally for me, is when I was really into Bruce Lee and his philosophy around JKD. He took a lot of inspiration from fencing. I think that was and then I remember there's a scene in Die Another Day, one of Pierce Brosnan's Bond films. Yeah, with Halle Berry. There's a scene when they're at a fencing club, like a really high-end London, fencing club, and I was like, okay. And too much to your surprise, when I was younger, I did Gattaca. So Gattaca.
That was a big surprise to me. I was like, just do Gattaca. You're like, I've done it. And I was like, have you really? You're like, I'll show you. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I felt like we'd cover this because your brother-in-law at your reception.
Oh yeah. Okay, don't tell the story. Okay.
Right. Yeah. But we had a long conversation about Gattaca, and more surprising that he did Gattaca. So that was
more surprisingly, you got that out of him, and I've never heard the fact that he's been doing Gattaca or had done in the past, and I've known him for half my life. Okay.
we connect in different ways because he felt the
Very,
vibe,
very
yeah.
much so.
Vibe teri melody.
Yeah, clearly, mate.
So yeah, so I've done Gataka, and I did a bit of I've done Kali as well. So Kali or Eskrima is a Filipino stick fighting. Actually, your part of the world, actually, and it's in Indonesia as well. A lot,
Yeah.
it's very big. I've done that as well. So I have a lot of crossover with these types of things. But fencing was always kind of like like you said, the perception is it's more posh, a bit more hoity-toity, and it's a bit more
Yes.
elegant, a lot more finesse. I was like, okay, let's try it. So Jamie is one of those guys. Jamie guys is my PT, formerly Indy's PT as well before he moved. He likes trying new things as well. And so when you're trying these new things, it's nice to go with somebody. So we just kind of went after a PT session. Not a good idea. Fencing is a lot harder than it looks in terms of there's two aspects. There's the technical aspect, which is obviously, getting the points and what we call parrying. So when somebody's trying to hit you, blocking their sword or their foil. So we learned actually fencing is made of three things. There's foil, saber, I can't remember the third one. It starts with E. But basically it's which part of the body is a scoring point and how you strike. So if you're striking like a slashing movement, that's a whole different thing. That's called saber. But what we see in the Olympics is what we call foil, which is where you can only
Pointing.
strike. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And but essentially the fitness required to go forward, backwards is tiring. So
Agility.
yeah. Well, yeah. Again, there's agility, but literally it's just cardio. So we did a PT session, then you get into your kind of what we look like dentists. We're kind of like the dental.
Yes, you
look,
do.
I'll send you the picture.
Full white robe.
And then we had a little bit of training. It was like 5-10 minutes. He was like, "All right, boys, if you just want to have a go." And that was it. I thought we were going to run drills.
Yeah, you thought it was like a full 30 minutes.
Structured.
This is how you do it. This move, that move, this move, that move. You're like, yeah, 10 minutes. You haven't poked each other's eye out. Off you go, lads.
Yeah. And it was like, put your helmets on, but in fall there's no head strikes anyway. It's all on the torso. And me and Jamie's got tired, man. We kept running at each other, and we got tired. And then he gave us some feedback and said, "Look, you're obviously a lot smaller than Jamie, so don't even try and attack because his reach just means he can just, as you come in, he goes, let him come to you and just focus on counter-attacking." So then I started to conserve so much energy, and then he kept running at me like a bull. So it was like deflect, bang, deflect, bang. So it was good. And then at the end they were like, "Okay, do you want to do it again?" We were like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we're booked in to go next Monday. But prior to that, we're going to be doing some archery on Sunday. That's another one of my things.
Archery seems cool.
Yeah, so archery is one of those, I'd say...
That's more like hunter-gatherer, Joe Rogan vibe, right?
Joe Rogan vibe. Or holiday, boys trip, when you do activities, it's one of those that crops up sometimes. And axe throwing and, that kind of stuff. And so I've done it a few times now. And I'm like, yeah, this is something I actually want to get proficient at. For me, when you get in the flow and you're firing the arrows, right, and you're just getting in that rhythm, you get a nice grouping... It's kind of the same feel like when you're at the driving range and you're just hitting balls clean and they're going straight and you're just in the zone, man. And it's just really satisfying. So archery, fencing, horse riding is on there, playing piano is on there as well. I think that's my current list of things.
You got a bunch of shit to do, man. Fair play.
Yeah. And I just feel like I'm at a good point here where I've got the time I can afford to do these things.
So Shindy is like babies.
Yeah, even with that, then it's like, well, how can I fit this in? So now it can't be this many times a week. It's like, how can I do it like once every 2 weeks? Yeah. There's always a way to do the things. And it's just, I think when you're young, you got all or nothing. You're like, okay, if I can't do all of it, sack it. And now I'm kind of at the point where it's like, it's okay to go slow and maintain it, in the same way we started the podcast, right? And initially it was like, okay, what are we going to do? How long are we going to do it? What are we going to talk about? And now it's just become a rhythm, and it's nice, and we're going to keep building on it. So yeah,
I agree.
Fencing.
Sweet. All right, we'll jump into the next segment. Okay, confessions. I will go first. Okay.
You will go first.
Confessions of a married man in Bali.
Yo.
I swear to God, I nearly got very ill in Bali. Okay, because I woke up when we were supposed to do a volcano hike. So there's a volcano hike you can go up called the Mount Batur hike. Where you get up at 2 a.m., you hike up a volcano, you go to the top, you see the sunrise, you come back down, you're back in the hotel by midday. So we agreed to do this. On the day that we agreed to do it, everything's fine. The day after, I start developing like a really bad cough and cold, feeling worse and worse. We go to sleep about 8 o'clock the night before because they're going to wake us up at 2. I'm in bed lying down and my heart is just racing. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I got a fever. I am struggling. And I was like, okay, let me try and get some sleep. I eventually fall asleep. Alarm goes off in the morning. I wake up. The bed that I'm on is the side of it's wet,
drenched.
Okay? It's that bad. I'm like, okay, don't worry, it's fine. Just get up, do your thing. Yeah, do your thing. It's not a problem.
Just a little side injection here. As the doctor listening to this, you're like, don't worry. I'm like, worry, bloody alarm bells, red alert, get this man into hospital.
So I thought, I'll be fine. Don't worry, yeah. I get up, and then obviously I've got that Whoop tracker, yeah. So I'm like, let it calculate its thing. I clean my teeth, Sandra's getting ready, she's getting ready, bam. Whoop comes up, and it says, you've recovered 1%. And I was like, 1%? That means I'm barely alive, right? After 4.5 hours sleep, 1%. And I was like, call me crazy. I don't think we should go.
Give the viewers some context. You've been in a similar position before. But
so on my stag, I got to 2%.
Right. So
but that was after violently vomiting all night and being really sick, but losing all the fluids. That was obviously orally. Clearly, in my sleep, I had sweated out all my fluids and I had nothing left. So I was like, okay, this is bad. This is not good. This is bad. This is bad.
And how does 1% Indy compare with 2% Indy?
1% Indy was...
no, sorry. 1% Mr. Indy.
I felt functional. The fucked up thing was I felt functional. I was like, you know what? I can still move around. I'm okay. Right? I'm like, it's cool. Don't worry. But then I went downstairs and I said to the guy, I'm going to have to cancel this and move it to a different day. Normally, they charge you the full whack. I spoke to him and I said, look, I've got a fever. And I dropped the word like, oh, I might have COVID. And they were like, ooh. They were like, ooh, okay. And then they spoke on the phone and said, right, just pay him like a small amount and then we'll reschedule. I said, fine. I said COVID because I was like, maybe it is. But then if I say that, they won't make me pay the full cancellation.
Right.
They'll be like, oh, we'll give you like a little bit of a cancellation fee. That's it. Fine. Went back upstairs and Sandra's like, I knew it. I told you to not go ahead with this, to rebook it, to change the day, but you wouldn't listen to me. You were too stubborn. And I said, look, I'm prioritizing my health. You should be happy here. She said, I'm not angry at the fact that you've cancelled it now and that I got ready and I was good to go. I'm angry that you didn't listen to me. And also, I'm annoyed at the fact that you let me get ready, get fully changed, clean my teeth, and then you said no. I was
so dissection, sorry. The day before, or 2 days before, had you exerted yourself in any way like that's made you ill? Or?
I think we'd done like a bit of walking and stuff, but the cough I had and the cold was just getting worse. I was sneezing, coughing non-stop, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, maybe it's the aircon in the room. Like, I'm not used to sleeping in a room with aircon. Maybe that's messing me up. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. So yeah, she was right. I should have cancelled it. But
no, when is she saying you should have cancelled it? Like the night before? Was that what she means?
The night before, when I wasn't feeling okay. I thought I'd be okay with some sleep.
She's saying do it early on. And then this second point here, which is letting her get ready. So you'd already decided your point that you're going to go down and cancel. Why not tell her then at that point on waking?
No, I did. I told her then. As soon as it came up with 1%, I was like, let's not do this. Yeah, she's like, you should have just done this before. But anyway, cancelled it, moved it to a different day. Fine. Okay. I went back to sleep. Let the Whoop do its calculation again. I slept for nearly like 13 hours. Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah. I woke up and it had gone from 1% to 3%. I was like, okay, it's very good I didn't go now because it's only recovered to 3%. This is not good. This is not good at all. So yeah, I was thinking it could be COVID, but I didn't want to get a test because out there, they're really strict. I started looking at doing like a lateral flow or doing like a PCR, but then I was like, hang on. If I do this, they're going to enforce an isolation period. It's going to make things difficult. Right. I said, I'd rather not know. So I was like,
I'd rather endanger the lives of everybody around me by not knowing.
Yes, of course.
Is what
I did
exactly
that.
Exactly
yes.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, did you leave the hotel? Did you stay there for a little while? Or
that day, I stayed at the hotel for the majority of the day.
Right.
Yeah. I went out to eat quickly and came back. That's it.
I'm starting to think now, connecting the dots together that, Sanj has not had food poisoning. She's had Indy poisoning. So
no, she's had food poisoning. And we will come to that in the next segment. And you will know why.
No, well,
I can explain exactly how she contracted the food poisoning, and she knows herself.
Contagion.
Anyway.
Have you seen the film Contagion? I'm thinking about that.
Yes, I've seen Contagion. Yes, it
Right.
came out. They put it on Netflix during COVID. It was
Yeah.
trending #1 for like 4 months. Okay, who
Right.
didn't see it? Okay,
That lady, she's in South. She's like where you guys were, man. Sitting at the bar.
Yeah.
She was like patient
Yeah.
zero. That was Sanj,
Boss,
man.
that's
It was
it.
you just putting things into her food, innit? I know what you're about.
Clearly.
Mr.
Clearly.
Indy. Mr.
she
Indy.
was fine the whole holiday.
I bet she was Mr.
The whole
Indy.
holiday, she had no illness. She was
Right.
fine in her element, and then she got the illness.
And
So
then she gets
anyway,
near you. Right, yeah.
this is what happened. We did the volcano hike in the
How
end.
many days
We
after?
did it 5 or 6 days after.
Right, and just, sorry, let's just tie for this bit. The fever, did you break the fever at some point?
Yeah, I broke it the day after. Like in the evening, I was fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I was fine.
Okay,
And then I
alright.
was like, okay, fine. I'm not too hot now. I'm okay. And then I was recovering slowly, and I felt human. But we did the hike on the Monday before we left. So we flew out Tuesday night. We did it Monday morning at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Garan, it's the hardest hike I've ever done in my fucking life. I swear.
Hike means
on
like this. Up.
it was a massive incline.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought I'd be smart and wear these barefoot shoes. Yeah.
Oh, here we
No,
go.
I took them
Here we
off.
go.
I took them off within an hour. So I took a pair of Vans and a pair of barefoots. Problem was, when you're walking barefoot on that steep incline, your calves start burning, your feet start burning. So if you wear padded shoes, it takes the pressure off and puts it more on your hamstrings, glutes, and back, which is better. It's more bearable to go up the
Distribution.
hill. Now, Sanj is an absolute savage. I never thought I'd see this, but she was storming ahead. And I was like, who the fuck are you? Like, how did you get this energy to go and do this? Very, very peculiar. But she beat me the whole way up. On the whole way up, Garan, I wanted to quit. I wanted to say, I don't want to do this. I want to turn around and go back.
How many hours
But I
is
was
the
like-
hike?
It's about a 2-hour hike, but it's a constant incline the whole way up. There's no respite. There's different routes it can take you that's less of an incline going up, but it's longer, obviously, because you're walking over more distance. So the woman took us over the one that wasn't as long.
Okay.
Eventually, we get to the top. You see the sunrise. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And then you come back down. When going down, Sandra's shoes didn't have enough grip to stop her from sliding down.
Okay.
So I was better on the way down. She was better on the way up. So I had to help her down and stuff off the rocks and whatnot to stop her from slipping. That was
So,
cool.
moral of the story, you helped her on the way down. She did not help you on the way up. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Indy?
She did help me on the way up. She was very good. Very
Leading
good
the
moral
way.
support.
Moral support. Come on, Indy. Come on, Mr. Indy. You can do this.
No, I swear to God, all she was like, just like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm dying. And she said, you're fine. Keep going. You're fine. You're fine. And the biggest lesson is, right, don't fucking take breaks. When you're in that
Momentum.
flow of getting up there, keep going. Take it slower,
Yeah.
but keep going.
Don't
That
stop.
way, you're fine. If you stop and you
Yeah.
start trying to walk again, your legs are like hurting too
Yeah,
much.
yeah. They go jelly,
The
don't
blood's
they?
constantly flowing. You can't feel it as much. Your breath's going, your heart's pumping, but your legs are still moving upwards gradually. If you stop and try and go again, it really hurts. Don't do it. And our tour guide woman is a fucking absolute legend because she does this 6 days a week.
Mate, she's like a Sherpa, man. She's got the muscle tone. She's got muscle memory.
She does that 6 days a week,
In shape. She must
every
be in
day,
shape.
2 a.m.
Shape, yeah.
Yeah, every day, 2 a.m. I'm like, whoa.
Was it just you guys? Did you have like a little group?
It was us and 2 other people
Okay.
on our little group thing. But there were like loads of groups going past us, like big groups of people, because you're all
Yeah,
going
yeah,
up
yeah.
the same route, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, all set up at the same time. But that was my confession. What's yours?
My confession is, my confession is a funny one, isn't it? Kind of feel a bit like you, actually. I had indie rage. So the context of this, guys, is something I'm working on in the background is another YouTube channel. And so in the early days, Indy and I did a bit of testing where Indy creates some videos for me. So the videos I create are around mindset and living authentically and essentially all the observation things I've learned to date. And I found out that the best medium is using my voice, which is what I like doing, and then using an illustrator for sort of whiteboard animation videos. And now I've got a really good animator, so chap who does the videos. The problem I'm having at the moment is finding someone to do good thumbnails. So you need obviously really eye-catching thumbnails to attract people on YouTube, So, Fiverr is the place we start off on. And, trying to find someone who can do hand-drawn or comic style or animated style thumbnails is proving difficult. I thought I found someone with the exact description, price is good. But most things, you need to make sure they understand what you're asking for, and I like to get like a trial done. So I start speaking to this guy, and I'm like, okay, this is what I need, and I'm very specific. Like I send him a video that I've done. This is my content. This is what it's like. Here is a screenshot of another YouTube channel, and this is the type of thumbnail I want. Do you understand what I'm asking for? Can you do this, yes or no? Within the first message, right? And this guy's like, no problem, Baji. I can do it in 15 minutes. And
He said Baji.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this guy's from abroad, right? So.
But did he say the words Baji?
Yeah. And we spelled it differently as well. It was like, how would you spell Baji?
Paaji.
Absolutely right. This is PA space G. Baji.
Ooh,
I was like,
geez,
oh,
okay.
because I read that and I look at my pug. My brain says pug. I'm like, oh, Baji.
Bugji.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay. Anyway, 15 minutes, I'm like, he's either really good or he clearly doesn't understand, what is it that I'm looking for. And he comes back and it's just absolute shit. It's like a little girl. It's just like, oh, a video by Dr. Jazz, how to live more happy. And I'm like, how does this look like this? And
agony.
Yeah, and he's like, don't worry. This is trial. Take longer. Do better product. And I said, look, you got 24 hours. Take your time, but I want a really meaningful thing, right? If you don't understand something, ask me for clarification. Comes back, more shit. And I'm just like, what is this shit? And then I keep saying this. I'm not angry. I'm like, no, sorry, this isn't what I'm looking for. Do you understand the brief? I keep going back to that.
Karen. It's
Okay. Oh, I'm angry inside, but I'm not saying it to him at this point.
You're not venting.
And then right, yeah. Then I did a screen recording, right, in his native language, like Urdu Punjabi, and I'm like, "Aha, chahida minu. Ah, tera kam hai. Same nahi hai." I put it side by side. I was like, basically saying to the guy, "This is what you produce. This is what I want. This clearly isn't what I'm asking for. Do you understand? Right? This is the style." Yeah, he says, "Okay, I understand." Comes back, more shit. And then I'm just like, all right, full caps is coming out now. Full caps, right? Full caps.
Oh, full caps. Here
right.
we go.
You clearly.
Karan, hang on.
Yeah.
Karan turned to Karen real quick.
Yes.
Go on.
You clearly do not understand what I'm asking for. If I had a hand, the hand would be doing this, right? In the thing. So I gave this whole like paragraph. Not everything was full caps, but there's some full caps in there. It's very rare that I use full caps when I'm speaking to somebody. My kind of levels are speak sternly by using words like kindly. Then it's like speak sternly and add bold to things I want you to see. But the final level for me is like when I got all caps and bold. I'm just like, this is it, man. Destruction mode, right? And then the final message, the guy was like, "Oh, by the way, sir." He calls me sir as well. Sir, I'm 14 years old and I'm very new to this and I'm just learning. And I was like, oh my God, I've been like dealing with this 14-year-old who just... He's probably good, like for him, that's really good, man. The stuff he produced. But I'm there thinking I'm working with this experienced like person, and then I felt really bad. I was like, oh my God, I just went off at a 14-year-old. Then I'm breaking like all his confidence. Like he's gonna leave Fiverr. I'm like, you are doing really good, man.
Oh, Karen, no, you succumbed. Bro.
No, I didn't say this. No. This is just what I was thinking. I still haven't replied to him. I just left it there.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just in shock myself at what I'd done here. I mean, the work is still bad. Maybe he needs that life lesson. It's like, have you seen that video of that guy? I don't know who this guy is, but he's like this big guy sitting on a plane. He's got a window seat, and the mum says to him, "Can we trade seats so we can sit next to each other?" or something like that.
Yes.
And he's like, "No." He's no, because I think it's more important that your child learns that sometimes the world's going to say no to you.
Yes.
So I had a bit.
I agree with that video.
Yeah, and I had a bit of that in my head, which was like, bro, like if you want big gigs, you want good gigs, then you need to understand the brief, and you're not understanding this, so it's not going to serve you well just to keep producing shit, even though you're 14 and great for trying, kind of thing. Yeah, so that was my confession. It was just, so moral of the story: ask the person, how old are you?
Yes.
Not something I
thought
I'd have to ask on Fiverr, and how much experience have you got? And before progressing with it, guys, just make sure they understand the brief. Very important.
Are you going to get a refund?
No, I didn't pay anything. That's what I'm saying. This is all on trial basis.
Oh shit! Okay, at least
this is what I'm saying. Like I stress test people hard on Fiverr. Because I always say, look, I'm looking to work with somebody long term. Same with the guy I did my animation video. So if I'm going to work with you long term, I need to know that the quality is going to be there and you understand what we're going for, what the vibe is.
What about Upwork?
What work?
Upwork.
What's Upwork?
Oh,
Free Up.
Upwork.
You want Free Up?
Free Up. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Upwork is one actually. I'm not going mad. Hang on. Go on.
Oh. So during this conversation, I actually thought, yeah, how come I haven't posted it on there? I've just thought to do that. So I will reach out to somebody on, because that you can actually give the brief, can't you? And they'll find people.
Yeah.
For you, so it's better.
You can use
match.
Upwork. Upwork has a bunch of freelancers on there as well.
Right.
But I don't know if that's what you're after.
Yeah.
Maybe give it a go.
I'll try that as
Check
well.
it out.
We had, and then I remember there was a PA student. So this is from MedX now, who we taught one of our courses probably 2 years ago. Who once we finished the course, she does little like sketches, like really good. She did one for me, Power and Jim, which is on our MedX page. And I thought about her, and I was like, oh, maybe she could do it. So I reached out to her. We've set up a meeting. She's interested, so she could be the one.
Good.
Yeah. So guys, persistence. Persistence is key.
Let's be honest. Who wants to be in a hospital doing that? You'd rather be at home sketching. I would.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But it has to pay well, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
That's
You got to
the
start
thing.
somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you want to do the podcast full time, don't you?
Started somewhere.
Started somewhere. Then there's going to be a day you're going to ask me, like, you need to stop being a doctor so we can do the podcast and travel the world.
I don't know. I don't think you'll ever do that.
Absolutely.
I think you have to take extended leave off from being a locum and then come back. Yeah.
All right. You're planning it for me, are you? Absolutely. Yeah, it's fine. Well, look, if the numbers stack up.
Because you're like, what's my MO? My MO is helping people. I must still be a doctor.
But I feel the podcast does help people as well. I think what's interesting about the podcast is...
It does help some people. Nice escapism.
Yeah, and people feel part of the conversation. I think it's nice the messages that you send, that people send to us. It's always, we don't know who's listening or who's watching. I wish more people did tell us. Or we had a way of, although we can measure views and things or listens or whatever, it's like you want a real face and a name.
Well, that's a big breach of GDPR.
I know. But you know what I mean? It's just like that that level of validation would just be nice, you know, just be like, okay, yeah, we're here. We see you. We listen to you. We watch you.
Yes.
And there's probably a lot of people that do that just don't reach out. So
yeah, I think that there definitely is that. I mean, the numbers say it. So yeah,
numbers say it.
Let's see.
So yeah, this is helping people.
It is. I hope our confessions are helping people as well. Feel like it's okay to rage at a 14-year-old and tell your wife that she isn't right. You know, very important.
Tell your wife she isn't right.
Yeah,
that wasn't the moral of the story. She was right. You know she's right.
Yeah, I know. Just let me.
No.
Just let me have it.
And then
let me have it.
Then I poisoned her. Yeah. I was like, no,
we'll that in the next segment.
You suffer now.
Next segment, guys.
Okay.
Check it out in a sec. You'll understand. Okay, for clarity, I did not poison my wife. However, I need to ask Karan a question as a doctor. This is not I have a question. This is the Doctor Chronicles. However, Doctor, what do you do when you have extreme food poisoning abroad? Let me paint the picture for you.
Context.
So remember how we went up and down that volcano with Sanj?
Right.
The morning that we arrived at the place to take us, they give you pancakes to eat. I said, I ain't touching that with a barge pole. Sanj said, I feel bad. I'm going to have a bit. So she ate a lot of it. Fine. She missed out the banana in the middle, ate a lot of it. Let me finish. Hang on. Wait there. Okay. Jumping in, we do the walk up and down. She's completely fine. Gets to the car. She's acting a bit woozy. I was like, I think she's a bit tired. She might be low sugar. She's diabetic. It's cool.
Yeah.
Nothing too obvious. We both fall asleep, right? This geezer in the car is trying to upsell me the whole way home. I'm like, take me home. He's like, okay.
What's the upsell?
He's like, do you want to see Temple, sir? No. Would you like to go see this, sir? No. Can we stop here, sir? I said, can you just get me home, please? Right? I was like, it's 11:30. I'm knackered. I stink because I've been walking up this fucking hill. Right? Sanchez as well. Not hill, volcano. Anyway. So, fine. Eventually we get home. We're around the corner. Stan says, I do not feel well. I was like, it's okay. I think you're just tired. I think you're exhausted. Let's get you home. Cool. Get back to the room. I need the loo. She needs the loo. She's in the loo for a long time. I'm like, that's very unusual. She comes out, says, I don't feel good. I was in there for a while. I said, okay, you lie down. I come out. She then says, I feel like I need to be sick. I said, okay. She lies down, falls asleep. I then run to the shops to go and get her something to stop her from feeling sick. So I got these anti-sickness meds, come home, give them to her. She says, okay, thank you. About to give it to her, and she sits up and she's like, I need to be sick. So I put the bin next to her. She got the bin. She threw up in the bin 4, 5, 6 times. Then it was dry heaving. I was like, you're in a bad position, aren't you? because when I came in, she'd been to the toilet again, and she was pretty much releasing water out of her backside. So anyway, I'm now worried. I'm like, you're diabetic. How the fuck do I keep your sugar up? And you're also excreting all of your fluids out of both ends. What do I do? So, Karan, in hindsight, if you have any of these problems, what do you do?
I'm going to die today. This is a really good assessment there as well. You're clearly concerned about the right things as well. That's a hard thing for a non-medical person. The recognition first of, should I be concerned or worried, right? So that's important. You have the right concerns there. So
do you know why I'm concerned or worried for her?
Go on.
She never gets ill. She looks after herself so well.
Okay. Robot.
She never gets ill. And when she does get ill, it's very extreme. So I'm like, okay, if you're saying you're ill, it must be bad. Me, I'm like, I have a running cough or cold all the time. Something's always wrong with me.
Right.
For her, it's like, if there's something wrong with me, I mean it. I'm not exaggerating. And I'm like, okay. And when I saw her vomit and throw up and go to the toilet a few times, I'm like, you're in a really bad way. Yeah. And then naturally, anyone thinks, if they know their partner, how do I handle this if they're going to be diabetic and they have to keep their sugar high or in a stable position and keep fluids and not get dehydrated? Like, yeah, how do you do these things if you can't keep anything down?
Yeah, that's
I ran and got all this stuff. To fix her. Yeah.
So a couple of things to dissect here. So let's just take the diabetic angle first. So high sugar, low sugar. Okay, if you're going to have one, you'd rather have a high sugar than low sugar. Reason for that is simple. So if your sugar is high, and there are complications of having a sustained or persistent high sugar. So in a type 1 diabetic like Sanj, it's what we call a DKA, the diabetic ketoacidosis. Oh yeah,
I just tell people she is type 1. She isn't type 2. She does look after herself.
I see. Yeah, she's not a fatty person.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't want people to think like she's like massively in a really bad health state. Doesn't care about her body. No. She is type 1, which means her pancreas just doesn't function. That's it. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more that rather than insulin resistance, it's just production is the problem, which is why she has to substitute that with what we call exogenous or insulin from outside for that. So yeah, high sugar, low sugar. High sugar complication, diabetic ketoacidosis is bad. Is normally the way that type 1s are diagnosed, but it takes longer for you to get there. Low sugar, hypoglycemia, the transition from my sugar is low to I'm really unwell and I'm passing out and I'm not waking up really quick. So low sugar, much more dangerous. Now, Sanj is fortunate. She's got what we call the Libra meter, I believe, so she can check her sugar.
So explain to people how that is.
So the conventional way to check your blood sugar is, you do a finger prick, and then you put the little meter on, and you have the thing that gives you the number. But obviously,
the check thing, it checks the number of your. What's the number? What actually is the number?
It's capillary glucose. That's what we're checking.
That's the one. So it's checking how much sugar is in your blood. Essentially, it should be within like a suitable range.
Exactly, right. And so generally you want it, single figures is what we aim for, 5 to 7 is good. Pre-meal, right? Post-meal you expect your sugar to go up because you're eating, that's fine, that's expected. Obviously diabetics will then have insulin with their food to counteract that. You're trying to mimic what the body would do otherwise, right? So low sugar it depends on the person, but kind of anything less than 4, you're going to start getting symptoms. So this is something to recognize. If you're somebody who is diabetic, and we have to make sure you have what we call hypoglycemic awareness, which means, do I know I'm having a hypo, I could have a hypo, so I know to go and have some quick acting sugar. So those are things like feeling jittery, sweating, you might sound a bit more confused, but feel a bit slower. Your partner may say, or someone there might say, you just don't look right. If you suspect that and you don't have access to your meter, have sugar. Because like I said, even if it's not a low sugar and you've slightly gone a bit higher, it's fine. You can correct that with insulin or whatever. So that's hypo. So yeah,
hang on. Pause. Explain the
meter. Yeah, that's what I'm going to now. Yeah, so rather than having the finger prick, what Sanj has is she has a built-in meter, which means with her phone she can read her blood glucose essentially wirelessly without having to do the finger prick. So it's much nicer on the patient. It's just much nicer, and that's obviously the way the world is going to go eventually for everybody who needs it. So she's losing from both ends, right? So the risk here is obviously dehydration is a separate thing, but that's massively important when it comes to type 1 diabetics, because the complication I alluded to earlier, the DKA, the big problem in that is when your sugar is persistently high, the only way to get rid of sugar what your body does is it'll say, I'm making up a random number. Say your body's got 50 units of sugar in its body. It'll say, right, I can store like 20 of those, but the other 30, I've got no use for them. They have to be weed out. When the sugar gets weed out, it takes loads of water with it. That's just osmosis, right? And that's what makes people in DK so dehydrated, because they're having to pass this excess sugar because it's so high in your body. The passing of that excess sugar means loads of water comes out and they lose liters and liters of fluid and they become massively dehydrated. The cause of death in these types of people is dehydration. That is the biggest thing. Wow. Like, we can get the insulin in, that's fine. We need to fill them up. So to give you an idea, these people, when they come in, we ended up in a 24-hour period giving them between 7 to 8 liters of fluid. Now think about that. A 2-liter Coke bottle, you're having 3-4 of those intravenously, obviously, in that shot. That's how much you've lost. Wow. Right? So that's how much you lost. So now the conundrum here is, well, if Sanjay's sugar is dropping, right? Well, how do you correct it if everything she takes then gets vomited up? That's the problem. Obviously, in a hospital, very easy. We can give you intravenous. You obviously don't have access to that cannula, or use something called glucagon sometimes, which is an intramuscular injection. So when you haven't got access into a vein, you just straight in. Again, only a temporary fix. So it's difficult. Again, the other thing we have is something called glucogel. So you can rub that on the inside under your tongue.
Yeah, it tastes horrible. I asked her about this. Like, do you ever carry that for emergencies? And she said, Indy, it tastes like paste. Basically, it's horrible. So what I did was, to keep her sugar high, I was giving her these, it's their version of Diarrhea sachets.
Yep.
So I've mixed that with like a sachet of sugar. Like, I just put the sugar in, mixed it, and I said, drink it. Yeah. So she drank that, so her sugar went high.
Good.
And then it was like absorbing a little bit, so it kept her high for a while. And I said, I thought the same way how you did, which is being high is better than being low. But she said, if I'm high for too long, my blood can become acidic, and then it can produce ketones, and then that's really bad. Yeah. And I said, okay, fine. But I said, we just need to see if you can stay somewhat high and not throw up water. Then if you can't throw up water, you can't throw up, let's try bread. You don't throw up bread? Good. Let's try something else with a little bit of like butter. Can't throw that up? Good. Let's try the next thing. Like, that's it.
And your approach is correct here, because there's, in correction of a hypo, or just trying to keep someone's sugars high, you've got your fast-acting sugar, Jelly Babies, Coke, Lucozade, right? Yeah. Bang, that's going to save your life right now. But then you need a slow release, which is everything else, which is the bread, the sandwiches, the biscuits, all that kind of stuff. So it is a kind of a mix there. Kind of numbers-wise, though, there's no absolute number that will lead to that kind of acidic blood. But anything more than 20, yeah, the chance is a lot higher. But that kind of mid-range, kind of, you have to keep someone's sugar a little bit high, kind of 5 to 15, you should be okay for, like a small amount of time. So there's in our land, we know there are things that are abnormal, but they're permissible. We'll accept that because we know what we're doing and it's in a controlled scenario. Now here, because you've got access to taking the sugar, which is good. Yeah. You have like a window where you can work within, right? So yeah, and then obviously from the other side, you've got the diarrhea, which is the loss. And so diuretic is good. You're trying to keep all the electrolytes. Now the body's obviously trying to get rid of a toxin. There's something the body does not like, and it sounds like it was the pancake.
That fucking pancake, mate.
Right, so it's got something in there, some sort of bug, which is like your body's like, no. You need to get rid of this. This is why all this excretion's happening. It's obviously very extreme, but it's very rudimentary. It's very clever, right? It's toxin in your body, blah, vomit, get it out. It makes sense. It's not very nice, but it makes sense. And then you just got to really just have what you can have. And then you've got to see how you are. You've got to rest like you were doing. The interesting about countries like Bali, definitely India, Cancun, where we went on holiday, is pharmacies will allow you to buy prescription medications.
Over the fucking counter. It's mad.
UK, you can't do this. America, remember when WBBC? When Hans, he had the vomiting, I had to go with him. And I knew exactly what... And Donzatron, what you ended up giving Sanj is what I was trying to get for him.
Vomigo, yeah.
And they were like, no, we can't give it to you. When we were in Italy, I think Shindy had like a skin infection, and I needed like antibiotic, flucloxacillin. I just told them I'm a doctor, and they were like, oh, okay, that's fine. Showed them like something that had doctor on it, and they were like, yeah, you can have it. I was like, bloody hell.
Wow, Jesus, so loose.
Yeah, so it's I can say it's good if you know what you're doing, but it's not good generally, especially for the antibiotic use. But that's a complete different topic. But yeah, go to a pharmacy, see what you can get, basically. Now, the thing that I have found, so there was an incident. We talked about it in the podcast. Remember the pumps? How many pumps did I have when I had the vomiting? I rang you and I was like in the car, like 45 or 1 hour journey. So
she only threw up in that one sitting. She didn't throw up again afterwards.
So one pump,
which was good, but it was like 6 or 7 light heaves.
Yeah, dry heaving is bad. It's just not a pleasant feeling. Sometimes you actually prefer the vomit because it clears it.
Yeah, you do, because at least it's coming out. Yeah. But towards the end, when she was dry heaving, I'm like, there's nothing coming out. But I'm not going to tell you that because your body's trying to get something out. So let it do its thing, and then eventually it'll stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I think your management was correct. Basically, you've got the fine line when you're abroad is, do I need to go to hospital?
Bro, that crossed my mind. I was like,
yeah, and
do we need to get to the hospital? Yeah. Is this bad? How can I manage this at the hotel? And then we're flying home the next day. And I was like, well, let me go and explore the fucking need to stay here for a couple of days if
fit
to
fly. Yeah.
So I went downstairs, asked about the hotel price, had to reach out to my travel agent in England who booked the honeymoon to see if they can rearrange the flight. And they said, if you want to, tell me now because there's limited seats available. And I was like, fuck me. And Sanj just looked at me and said, I'm getting on that fucking plane. And I said, are you sure? She said, I'm getting on that plane. I do not care. I do not want to stay here and be ill. And she said, I would rather get on the plane, be dehydrated, struggle, get back to England, land, get off the plane and go to hospital in England. Because at least I know they'll look after me properly. And I said, fair enough. That's your choice. Fine.
It's just comfort, isn't it? I think healthcare probably there would be fine. But in an environment where we don't know the system, we don't know the people, we don't know the way it works, it's just, you're just like, shit, man. So yeah, I think you managed it quite well.
So in summary, if you do get food poisoning abroad, what do you do? Go.
Yeah, look, if you get food poisoning abroad, get back to basic meals. So to stop trying to have big meals, get as much fluid as you can in small intakes. Focus on things like bread and toast. Electrolytes are good in terms of Dialyte or Lucozade, absolutely fine. And then just be guided by your body. That's it. When you feel like you're ready to eat. Apart from that, you just want to keep it at rest. That's the main thing. The less you put in, the less it can come out. Fluid management's important. Knowing when to go to the hospital is important. If you're a diabetic, then there are other things you need to think about, which we've explored here. Yeah, that's all I'd say, really. It's all about fluid management. Dehydration is the big thing you're worried about here.
Sweet. Good segment. All right, next one, then we'll wrap it up. All right, it's been a pretty Bali heavy podcast, and may as well wrap it up with one Bali fact. When you go to Bali, Uber is banned. So I have a question. Why is Uber banned in Bali? I couldn't figure it out. I swear to God. I asked all the drivers, none of them would tell me. There's an alternative app out there called Grab. Now Grab is their version of Bali. Sorry, their version of Bali, their version of Uber in Bali. Okay. Now Grab allows you to do a bunch of things that you can do with Uber Eats, etc. You can order food, you can deliver food, you can be like a Grab driver, whatever. When I was there in 2017, Uber was allowed and it was accepted. Not accepted, but there was pushback. Like, don't use Uber. There were signs up with like Uber with like a cross going through it. All this stuff. People were super against it. Grab is more accepted and I couldn't figure out why. Reading online, the things I've read aren't really true. Some say Uber gave up the space and allowed Grab to buy it. Some say Uber were pushed out. I can't figure it out. But Bali essentially banned Uber because it was sort of imposed by the Bali Province Department of Transportation and the Bali Organization of Land Transportation. I don't know who these lot are, but essentially they said, no, you can't have it. But they kept Grab car. So Grab just hoovered up the difference on in lost custom, I guess, or like the space available for all those drivers. It's very weird how this happened. I think there was just a lot of resistance to Uber but not to Grab, and it's very odd because they both do the same thing. Maybe it was a branding thing. I honestly can't seem to figure it out.
So my question here would be, obviously Uber is what's the original company? Is it an American company, Uber?
Uber is American, yeah.
Right, cool. What's Grab? Is it native to that part of the world?
I think it might be native to this part of the world.
That's probably why then. So this sounds like it's like a regulation thing. Like I was at a wedding yesterday and I met somebody who works in-house for Uber. And so she knows all the areas that Uber cover in the world.
Yeah.
And so I was saying it's interesting that they get pushed back on some areas compared to others. But it probably is that, or, this native version. has paid off the right people, so they've got what are these? When those things go out for tender for contract, they've got the rights to deliver on it. Maybe it's that. Maybe they have control. Maybe the government make a percentage of Grab. The other thing it could be is something like the space has been leased to them from Uber, or like how you have hotels like the Marriott who have like their premium brand Marriott, and then have the other brand which is like Ibis. It could just be them, just like in a different native, like you said, branded version that's more acceptable to government people. That kind of thing. Could be a whole variety of things, but yeah, I always find it odd. It's one of the things I always check is like, is Uber available in this country when I go to travel?
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah.
But yeah, it's very odd.
I've just found a quick article on it. Basically, it says cab drivers initially complained about Uber and Grab. Uber got cancelled, but Grab didn't. They banned Uber's operations on the island. And I think it's because that, here it is, the reasoning behind the ban is that operations are similar to conventional taxis, but they're not held to the same standards. So for instance, they do not have a tourism permit like other public transportation companies. Therefore, they got forced out and stopped. I think Grab may have potentially kept in that area and just allowed them to keep things running. So
maybe signed off and got all these permits.
And maybe they got all the permits right, and then they were allowed to function. I preferred using Grab compared to a guy on the street, because the guy on the street will bump you. Grab just caps the price and keeps it the same. And the interesting thing is, if you try and use Grab out there and you set your payment device to card, no one picks up your cab fare. The second you change it to cash, everyone picks up your cab fare.
Interesting.
And I was like, I don't think that, maybe there's like, if you do the cash thing, they can pay like a percentage afterwards to Grab for the service. If you take it by a card, the percentage gets cut out immediately, and then they only get a little bit afterwards. So yeah. That was interesting.
Yeah. Who was I speaking to yesterday? It's not about Bali, but I got a friend who works a lot in Japan, and he said, so when you think Japan, what do you think? What is Japan known for?
Public transportation being really good.
Yeah, high tech, isn't it? Like one of the high tech places of the world, big buildings. He goes, they have that, and they've had a bullet train like since the 60s. But then he said there's no like Amazon don't do delivery there. There's no Amazon delivery. There's no Uber Eats. He said there's no concept of meetings are done without laptops. He works in finance. He works in Central Zone 1. Like he's on the shit. And he's like, we'll be 2 people in a meeting from our side. There'll be 25 on their side. Everyone needs to be there.
Everyone in the room.
Yeah, like on their side, like it needs to be there, every level. It's not efficient. And he's like, so there are things which you think what you think exactly like I thought about Japan, like, it must be like techie, and they must be so advanced. Even like when I went to America, when I proposed to Shindy, I had like a payment debit card, like a holiday card. This is like pre-Monzo kind of era. And I was like, yeah, contactless. And they're like, what's contactless? America. They're like, yeah, chip and pin. I was like, whoa, that's like really old, man.
Or swipe.
Chip and pin. Yeah, right.
They didn't have contactless in Indonesia, Bali, except for Starbucks. Yeah. Starbucks was the only place that had contactless. Everywhere else wasn't.
Yeah, but again, for a place like that, I still think, from my limited knowledge of that area, I think, it's going to be cash based. But America, to not have contactless, to be like, you need to chip and pin. I was like, bro, like, come on, like, you're supposed to be, whatever the UK is, my expectation is.
Yeah, I think now it is because of Apple. I think Apple Pay changed all that. As soon as Apple Pay came into effect, they're like, it must be compatible, or everything must be updated to a point where contactless is accepted so Apple Pay can work. If they introduced it early with concept without it being accepted, wouldn't have taken off.
That's true. Apple Pay is a delight, man.
It is, man.
When that option comes up, it's like, yes, don't have to remember anything.
Yeah, yes. I can just leave my card at home and just take my phone.
Yeah, I don't think I carry my cards anymore. I haven't done that.
No, I still do, just in case like my phone gets jacked or the battery dies or whatever, or if it malfunctions. Yeah,
I have a Shindy for that, so that's her job.
You have a wife for that. I have a
Mrs. Shindy, and you are Mr. Indy.
It's better than being called Mr. Duffu, right?
Well, it's coming up again, man. So we're going to Matera in November, and she's got all the discounts on Booking.com. It's clearly Mrs. Dafu. And so I'm sending messages and asking questions like the hotels. from her account. So it should be, the reply should be Mrs. Dafu. It's like, hello, Mr. Dafu. I'm like,
Oh,
how do you know the gender of the person that's contacting you? Like,
because they're assuming it's a man contacting them. That's it.
yeah, even though
Same
they
thing.
yeah, it's just bad. It's very bad.
This non-binary stuff hasn't taken off over there yet, mate.
No.
When it does, you might get the recognition.
Absolutely.
No, we might not
Do
get the
we-
recognition. They might, but yeah.
Did we podcast before you went on honeymoon?
Yes, we did briefly, like a day before.
We didn't cover Jordan Peterson, did we?
No, but we can do that next week.
We will do it next week. I saw him live. That was something.
Good. We'll cover that next week.
Yeah. Lovely.
All right, cheers, guys. Thanks for getting this far. Quite Bali heavy, quite Karan heavy. Just a good podcast. It was good fun. Back again, and we will see you next week. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Comments are important. Algorithm likes are important. Subscribing is important. You know, it all
Do
helps
it all.
us get traction. Just do everything, man. And while you're at it, say hi. Right.
Yeah, we like that.
All right. Take care, guys. See you soon.